What's going on YouTube? So today's the second week of working on the studio shed outside, and we just finished the framing up 3 walls, and we're gonna try to frame it up right now. Freaking tired, been out in the sun. For anyone that has a dream and a goal, follow your heart and start. Begin creating motion towards the goal and dream of yours. Started the podcast end of year 2022. July 9th, and on my way to pretty much picking up the door from our living room space to our backyard, up until finally deciding to create a dedicated studio from ground up. The goal in mind was to create a safe space where people can come and share their story, as we believe that everybody's life is a story to tell. From people that may have no social media presence to people with millions of followers or rising up to stardom. Documenting conversations that will bring joy, laughter to motivation, some emotional, or even just questioning the true meaning of life, whether or not we live in a simulation. Spreading awareness of plant medicine, such as ayahuasca, we hope and aim to encourage you to heal and become the best version of yourself, as we strive to do so as well. Follow along our journey. My name is Angel Houseman, and welcome to Nomas Podcast. And we are live. Welcome back to Nomas Podcast. Today we have a very, very special episode. We finally reached the 100th episode. So first and foremost, I just want to say cheers. Hopefully you guys are watching this episode and get to celebrate with me. As you can see, podcasting can be, it depends how you want to take podcasting, right? But many times, especially if you are a solo podcaster, I guess you could say, it can be very, very lonely. As you can see, I have I like to call Teddy my son, my best friend, my everything, right? Teddy's here with me. He always wants to be with me. But where I was going with this, yeah, podcasting, especially at the very beginning, it can be very, very lonely. Why? Because a lot of the times you're learning all the different skill sets of learning the new equipment that you just got for your podcast, learning how everything works. Then at the same time, researching different topics, so on and so forth. Long story short, it can be pretty lonely. Look at myself right now. It's currently 10:37 p.m. on a Monday evening, or Monday night, I should say. And I'm celebrating the 100th episode by myself with Teddy. And instead of being somewhere out there partying, we have a lot of work to do, right? We're a very small channel, so we're still trying to grow. But yeah, so this is just the reality of things. I know at times people that might not know me personally, but they see the reels, the TikToks, they can probably think that it's a big channel, right? Because I take pride into the quality and the content that we put out there. But in reality, a lot of it is just myself, right? Now I have a team. But a lot of it is still, I'm the driving force for everything to work out. But yeah, enough talking. Let's get this started. And first and foremost, once again, cheers. So we don't lose the tradition, I'm going to do the intro I always put up.
Are you ready? Welcome to Nomas Podcast with Angel Houseman.
Okay, being that it's a solo episode, I figured so far this is my process right now. I took a lot of notes. Why? Because at times when I've tried to do solo episodes, I lose my train of thought and I have no guidance on where I want to take the conversation to. So something that I figured and that has helped me so far is I have to take notes, bullet points, at times take some fun notes in order for me to have some sort of structure to my conversation, right? But yeah, I mean, you're going to find your way if at one point you want to do some sort of podcasting or whatnot. But this is so far what's been working out. At least this is what, like my second or third episode by myself. So I think this is probably the best way. So I took some notes in order for me to kind of stay on track. And yeah, so long story short, hopefully you enjoyed this new trailer intro for the 100th episode. As you can tell, it kind of showcases the journey that we've started the podcast with, from starting in our living room to moving to the backyard, then finally building the studio and having a dedicated space for us to shoot the podcast. And now currently to where we have the podcast makes it a lot easier, right? In the sense that I have all my cameras mounted, and just with the click of one button, it records everything. In the past, if I even mentioned it in the past, right, in other episodes, if you guys have been watching the journey across time, my cameras used to stop within 30 minutes. So I would start one, maybe like a minute before, then the other one a minute after, in order for me to be turning on and off the cameras with the controller, Bluetooth controllers. Now I don't have that issue at all. And sorry, I was looking at the camera, making sure it was recording. But now I don't have that issue at all. So having this dedicated space has not only motivated me, but it helps me if at one point I just want to record, I can have my space that I can come and be creative at. So as you saw through the intro, the trailer, it's been a long journey just to get to this point. By the way, before I forget, most of the times when I'm recording the podcast, I'm in sweats, I'm in freaking times a hoodie, so on and so forth. So I wanted to at least, even though I didn't want to, because I'm like, dude, I'm just at home chilling. Like, we were at home all day putting away Christmas decorations, but I wanted to dress up and make it into a special occasion, not only for myself, but for you guys, whoever is watching this episode or watches the TikToks or the Reels or whatnot. The only thing I was like, fuck, man, since I'm going to be posting the TikToks and the Reels, people are going to be like, what the hell is this guy wearing? Like, que se cree, you know what I mean? But if you guys watch the full podcast, that you guys understand that it's a special episode for myself, for the team, for you guys that have been following the journey. So let's get this started. I kind of put some bullet points to make sure that I tackle some of the biggest things, biggest moments, certain downfalls, advice, so on and so forth. So I created a few, like maybe 5 different bullet points that I wanted to talk about that I've experienced in these 100 episodes. So first one, the top moments of Hoy Nomas podcast. All right, so the top moments of the podcast have been, obviously when we first started off, it was going to be myself and my friend Chris. Then a lot of the times it just didn't work out in that way. I still want to have my friend Chris to come onto the podcast, but it's so crazy that through the podcast I've been able to have complete strangers that come onto the podcast to have a conversation with me, right? To share their story, their journey, whether it's because they want to talk to me specifically, or they might like the way that the content looks and they find that this is an outlet for them to share their story, their journey. But just having that of complete strangers to trust me with their image, with the words that are going to be spread out through the internet, I take a lot of pride and responsibility when it comes down to that. And one of the top moments, aside from, having complete strangers coming onto the podcast, is that I've had people that I used to watch on YouTube. For instance, Ryan Johnston. If you guys are not familiar with Ryan, has currently over 2 million subscribers. And I used to watch him with the Ace families related to Catherine. I used to watch them through YouTube over and over, like as when the whole family channel was huge on YouTube. I used to watch this person, and this person, Ryan, coming in and being 100% vulnerable, sharing his journey with ayahuasca, sitting in that exact same chair that Teddy's chilling right now on. And it's just surreal to me because I decided to turn on a few cameras, the mics, and it got to me having that opportunity to have somebody like Ryan, even though to some of you guys might not know Ryan maybe, but for me, just having somebody that I used to look up, or at least take the time to watch, being here in my space, it's surreal to me. Now, another thing too that is surreal to me is that I've had people in the podcast that when they came here in the podcast, obviously these are people that are working hard towards the goals and dreams, right? But now seeing their evolution, how much growth they've had, it's insane to me. And once again, for instance, El Barbas Hats, right? El Gallo Fino. Who else? Who else have I had? Esteban Plazola, for instance. Now, Barbas Hats, Gallo Fino, they're freaking buying exotic cars out there. They're having a huge fan base. They're going viral all the freaking time. Esteban Plazola, he came over here. At times, all these people are there in the struggle, right? And they came here and talk about their journey. And now seeing them succeeding in life, like Esteban Plazola signing to Peso Pluma, one of the biggest top artists in the world, and having them share their story, their journey with me, it's freaking mind-blowing. However, I do want to say that just because these people are, killing it in life doesn't mean that takes away from all the other guests that I've had. For instance, something that I've always told myself, and I use this as reference, right? Many times when, let's say if you're catching public transportation, you might have the opportunity to talk to a complete stranger that they give you a conversation that you wish you could have recorded. Why? Because a conversation with a complete stranger at a bus stop, at a trolley stop, right, can change your whole life, right? But now we have the opportunity to share it here in this podcast. And for me, those are the type of conversations that I much rather have, right? Something that can change and impact somebody's life in a positive way. So even though I've had people that are, succeeding in life and killing it, but having an organic, genuine conversation with somebody here means the world to me. So I think overall, that's been one of my top moments when people come here and share their life journey and are completely vulnerable. Why? Because first and foremost, they're trusting me with their time, with them putting themselves out there, getting criticized, maybe getting who knows, right? A lot of the times it's positive comments, but just to trust me, it means the world to me. Another top moment to me has been that through TikTok, we achieved our first quote unquote viral moment when myself and Chelo had the podcast of ayahuasca, and it so happens it had to be the one where Chelo mentioned that she did her ayahuasca ceremony, and she had the vision of seeing our baby that we lost through a miscarriage, and she was able to hold the baby, and she was able to see the baby through her ceremony and experience that motherly, pretty much going through labor and having the baby through seconds, right? Everything, the whole experience of becoming a mother, she experienced in seconds. up until the point of being able to hold the baby with the pink blanket. And finally, it got to the point that she had to give the baby back to Mother Ayahuasca because that was the agreement. Finally, she didn't want to give the baby back because she was getting already attached to her baby. But from a long distance comes her grandfather that has passed. And finally, she trusts her grandfather and she turns over the baby. And it just completely like broke us, right? Just to hear that story. And that was her first TikTok that went semi-viral for us, that got over 100,000 views and so many positive comments of people saying, oh my God, I'm crying this early. Oh my God, like such a beautiful story. It was incredible for us for that post to go semi-viral for us. That was the first one that got over 10,000 views. We hadn't even achieved that. And that one surpassed that by hundreds, I think even 200,000, I believe, something along those lines. And so that's always going to have a big impact to me, that story within itself took off for us. Another one that took off for us was Berenice sharing her story of postpartum depression. That story within itself, even though I had no idea what postpartum depression was or postpartum psychosis, but that TikTok within itself took off and got to a million right away. I think the latest I got to see that TikTok went to 2.6 million. Never in my life would have I've ever thought one of my pieces of content would have reached even a million, 2 million, 2.6 million. Crazy. So that for sure has to be one of the top moments that even if you don't think your content or anything that you're sharing online can have potential to go viral or just, change your life, you just never know until you actually try. But I think those are the top moments for me that have impacted me. Just a quick summary is just having complete strangers trusting me with their stories they're telling about their journey, people that are killing it in life, that are super succeeding, even stardom, becoming the stars and famous, and just people sharing their emotional journeys, their journeys traveling across country, ayahuasca experiences. I think those are probably my favorites, as you guys can tell. And then those special ones, like I mentioned about ayahuasca and Chelo. Why? Because that story, it was our story. It's our story right now. And that was our first one that went viral for us. Quick reminder, we now have a call-in number where you guys can leave us voice messages, video calls. Let us know a story you would want us to share on the podcast, anything you want. The goal is being able to interact with the people that support the channel. Even if you're looking for love, we will find your true love on Hoy Nomas podcast. Also, for anyone that is interested on creating your own channel, we have our Amazon storefront linked in the description where you can find all the cameras we use, the microphones, the lights, the equipment, where all of our podcasts are recorded to. If you need any help with editing services, we are able to produce your entire podcast, edit your short form content from Instagram Reels, TikToks, etc. You can look at all of our content as reference and we got you covered. And finally, if you want to support the channel, you can leave us a super thanks down below, which will help us tremendously, and we'll make sure to highlight that comment on the upcoming podcast and give you a shout out. Now back to the podcast. Okay, so next topic that I wanted to talk about is why I started podcasting. And I think one of the main reasons, I was trying to think back last time on why I even started podcasting in the first place, and I couldn't really pinpoint why I wanted to do podcasts in the first place. I think at that time when I first started 2 years ago, I think even right now, podcasts are still popular till today. But when I first started podcasting, which was 2 years ago, I think it was just all the content that I was consuming was podcast, right? So I wanted to be part of that community. And but aside from that, I mean, I can't really pinpoint it exactly or who I was watching or whatnot. But one of the biggest things that I continue, and I know it's one of the main reasons why I started podcasting, is because first of all, God made us in under His image, right? Within His image. So God gave us a specific goal and dream in life for a purpose, and especially He gave us a voice for us to express ourselves. So I think that's one of the main reasons why I love podcasting, because I get to share my thoughts. I get to share my what I think about certain topics. I get to have fun and express myself. And God gave us that ability to do so. So I think that's the main reason why I even considered and started podcasting. And another thing too is that being sorry, I'm looking at my notes, but I just want to make sure that I touch on everything, right? Another thing too is that one of the biggest fears in a lot of people's life is public speaking, right? But you can change people's lives just through sharing your words with somebody, right? Your advice. And believe it or not, even talking and sharing your way of saying things, as mentioned, you can change somebody's life, right? And I never wanted to leave or live my life without expressing my talents, whether if it was artwork, whether if it was through content creating, maybe graphic design. Now, being that, right, I don't do art as much as I would want to, but I still get to be creative through the podcast. And one of my favorite quotes actually comes from a movie that I think it has to be my favorite movie, which is A Bronx Tale. There's a quote that says one of the biggest, or here, let me make sure I actually say it correctly, is the saddest thing in life is wasted talent. And for me, I strongly agree with that. Why? Because God put you in this world for a purpose. And if you know that you have a talent, but you're not utilizing that talent, then God's gift to you is just a waste. So for me, I take that very personal to my life, that I'm not going to waste my life, especially with any gift that God has provided me, especially if I'm receiving this message into my heart to continue doing certain things. I'm going to continue doing it. Why? Because God is sending me this message to continue going or continue doing certain things. At least I like to think of it like that. In that same movie, also at the end of the day, is nobody cares, right? The Bronx Tale, the last message that gets delivered is that no matter what you do in life, is that nobody freaking cares, right? At times you think people care, and you upload, let's say relating it to social media, at times you upload certain things thinking like, oh man, like, oh, this one's gonna go viral, and it probably doesn't, or dang, I wonder what people are gonna think. But reality, let's say you upload this and nobody freaking cares, they just scroll, right? Or another example to this is that I think I was having a conversation with one of my friends that also does content creating. He focuses more. Sorry, it's getting a little hot. He focuses more on live events, right? Of actually going live instead of like recording the podcast and then uploading and all that. He records everything live, right? And I think he mentioned something along the lines that he hadn't posted something. Long story short is, if, let's say, for instance, me, if I post or not post within time, let's say if I don't post, people are going to forget about who I am, and like, hey, whatever happened to Angel or Nomas podcast? Oh, yeah, he hasn't posted in a while, and guess what? You're just gonna get left behind. They're gonna forget. Oh man, that sucks. I used to like his content, or I never liked his content. But then they watch something else, right? This is just in relation to content creating, but you can relate it to anything in life, right? Anything you want to do in life, people don't freaking care. So with that being said, you should do whatever you want in life, because at the end of the day, nobody freaking cares. And at times we give too much credit to people out there and let their opinions at times even stop us from doing certain things in life, when in reality we're just putting this illusion into our mind that people are going to think of us a specific way, or they're going to criticize us. So what? At the end of the day, they don't freaking care. All right, so moving along, it's a good thing I took notes, because I'm thinking like, oh shit, if I hadn't taken notes, I would have like completely like gotten off track. So I highly recommend taking notes for whoever wants to give a speech or anything. At least it's helped me, so it's helping me stay on track. All right, next one up is the number one thing I love. The number one thing I love about podcasting. Here, let me say it again. The number one thing I love about podcasting. Okay, so the number one thing that I love about podcasts has been that podcast itself has been a school to me. And what I mean about that is, and I've told this to other people, that if you were to record yourself just talking, having a conversation with somebody, just anybody out there, right? Just if you put your phone, record and watch over that conversation you had with this person, you're going to learn so much about yourself. Why? And because I've done that, obviously, with so many Teddy, I love you, Teddy. Teddy's watching me. So what I mean about you guys recording yourself is because when you record yourself, for instance, myself, that I've done now, this one being the 100th episode, is that I used to rewatch my episodes, and I used to see the way that I used to say certain words. I used to maybe get off track, maybe repeat certain words like, oh yeah, right. Maybe still use, till this point, I still use filler words like like, etc. Right? The majority of people still do it, but the thing is, you don't realize all those different things you do subconsciously until you rewatch and watch yourself just having a conversation. Even face expressions, the way you laugh, so many different things. So the number one thing that I love about podcasting is that it has become a school for me, that I study myself and I try to work on myself. Something else that I'm trying to do right now, I'm trying to expand my vocabulary. Obviously, I'm not the best at it, but I know at times I use repeated words, that I'm trying to learn other words that I can substitute for certain words that I use on a constant basis. It's not easy. Why? Because we get so accustomed to just talking to our friends, to maybe talking to coworkers, that maybe those words in a regular conversation could pass, right? But when you're putting yourself out there, you realize, man, like I'm very limited with my words. And so I give this challenge to anybody to record yourself for a couple minutes, maybe 5 minutes of having a conversation, so you can really study yourself. And the podcast has been that school for me. Why? Because I've been able to hold conversations with complete strangers. And now imagine the fear. This used to be one of my biggest fears when I first started podcasting, that a complete stranger that I don't know, which is the majority of people that come into the podcast, I don't know these people, right? So one of my biggest fears is like, what am I going to be talking to this person for about an hour and 30 minutes? But something that I learned is just to have that maybe certain tactics on how to have the conversation going, right? I realized that a conversation at the end of the day is just going to flow. Obviously, there's times when the guest can be super super shy, and they'll give you maybe one word answers. So you have to think of other ways to tackle that. For instance, if they give you something along the lines, oh yeah, one of my favorite moments was, going up to the mountains and seeing snow for the first time. Like, oh, okay. It just, well, why is it that you wanted to go there? Like, oh, just I had never seen the snow. Oh, okay. So now it's just you try to elaborate on something like that. For instance, well, what was the highlight of you being over there? At the mountains, so on and so forth. You find different tactics of what works for you to be able to extend that conversation, and just not being afraid of just talking to a complete stranger. For me right now, me doing the solo podcast, it's a huge freaking challenge to me. I challenge you to have a full-on conversation for over an hour with yourself. It's not easy. So even me right now doing the solo episode from 100 episode, it's still very very challenging to me. So once again, I'm practicing what I'm preaching. If you are someone that's suffering from hair loss, whether you're a man or a woman, there is now SMP, scalp micropigmentation. SMP is a non-surgical cosmetic procedure designed to create the appearance of a closely shaved or bust hairstyle on the scalp. It can also be used to enhance the density of existing hair by creating the illusion of fuller coverage. Make sure to contact SD Inc. as right now they are currently discounting $500 from your procedure if you mention Hoy Nomas podcast. SD Inc., thank you for being a sponsor to the podcast. And if you have a business or would like to sponsor the podcast, feel free to contact us through Hoy Nomas podcast on Instagram. Now back to the episode. Oh, okay, so I'm super sorry. I was looking at my notes, and I'm super glad that I took these notes, because something else that I used to do before, this was maybe, I don't know, this used to be my tactic before. Whenever I would finish recording a podcast, I would put all the freaking memory cards onto the computer, and I would edit the podcast. And once everything was edited, I would have to rewatch the episode, and I would have to look at the way I said certain words, look at my facial expressions. If I laughed and maybe too much of my gums were showing, I know that happens to a lot of people when they laugh. Just self-consciously, you laugh out loud and you make a funny face expression, but now you're thinking about like, man, people are gonna see my face expression that I laughed or I made this silly face, and it's gonna go all over social media. So what I used to do before is I used to edit out some of those moments, and instead of having the face expression or the camera angle focus on my face expression, what I used to do is take another camera angle and overlay it, right? Maybe the wide view angle, that way you can't really see my face as close, right? And obviously that would take me a lot longer for me to edit. But then I was watching this other YouTuber that I watch his podcasting, and he mentioned that when he uploads, he just lets AI choose his camera angles, does his thing, and he doesn't even rewatch it, or he just uploads it like that. And I started trying that slowly, right? Like, oh man, I just have to be okay with the way that I look, the way that I sound, and just let it be, right? This is who I am, and take it or leave it. Like, I'm not perfect, so it is what it is, you know? And finally, it got to the point that, which is now, I just let any mistake, any face expression, if I mess up, At times, if I mess up, I'll rephrase it again within the podcast and just let it be. I correct myself. But I don't fix any of those, or I don't re-edit to make myself look perfect. So I just let it be. And I'm sure you guys probably catch that. At times, many people have said, oh, you're very good at speaking, but trust me, I'm not. I'm working towards it. I hope that one day I can actually think I'm doing very, very good for myself when it comes down to talking and delivering storytelling. My vocabulary has expanded, but it's just a learning process, progress. Even right now, I messed up, right? It's just part of, becoming better, every single day, working towards that goal of, always trying to just become better, become the best version of yourself. I messed up once again. It's part of it, right? All right. So another topic that I wanted to talk about is the biggest accomplishment so far with podcast. So the biggest accomplishment so far with the podcasting has probably been being so consistent. It's a lot of work, and just being so consistent and delivering a piece of content every single week when it comes down to the full podcast, but also being able to upload almost one piece of content on a single day through the TikToks, the YouTube Shorts, the Instagram Reels. That takes a lot of dedication and a lot of commitment to do that. So that has to be one of my biggest accomplishments, just to stick to my goal and just, execute. That's one of the biggest accomplishments that I'm fully proud of myself, that many people quit, but something that I have to say, and I've mentioned it in the past, is that you have to truly love what you're doing, because if not, you're not going to be consistent, right? And I truly love what I'm doing right now with podcasting. It's just a simple example, right? It took me 2 years to get paid through YouTube. And if I didn't love it, and if I didn't see money coming in, many people would have stopped. But I'm not looking for the financial aspect to come yet. I'm just enjoying the journey. I'm enjoying the process. I'm enjoying the evolution along the way, and just enjoying the ride. So if it's something that you don't love, just don't waste your time doing it. You're just making it difficult for yourself. Find your true passion, listen to your heart, and everything should flow in that sense. Now, of course, I do want, obviously, at one point for content creating, podcasting, all the creativeness that I do with this endeavor. Of course, that's my end goal and dream, for all of it to provide me financial stability to do this for a living. That's my end goal. But I know I have to go through the journey first, which I'm currently working towards. Something that I can't leave behind, another accomplishment, is having my full-on team, right? And by my team is obviously myself, and I have 2 other people, 2 editors that have helped me elevate my podcasting, and just creating content that I've never thought I would be. Just creating content that I never thought I would be able to be putting out there. I've used to watch this quality of content on social media, and I would always wonder, wow, how is it that they're able to do this type of editing, or the style, the quality, just everything looked amazing. And now I feel like I'm to the point that I'm truly proud of the way that my content gets delivered. Obviously, there's much more room for improvement, but I can proudly say that I'm excited to the point that we've gotten so far, and that I have a team now that we're able to be consistent, provide quality content, and continue building from now. So having a team first of all, I never thought I was going to have a team. I thought it was just going to be myself working and spending hours and hours here in the studio editing. And now it's very limited to the point of me actually doing post-production editing. And the goal at one point is obviously to not even touch any of the editing. But I mean, it's part of the process, right? We're slowly getting there, slowly but surely getting there. Actually, I even have a quote for that. Once again, if you're going to be freaking doing something solo, giving a speech, if you've never really had to practice, highly recommend this freaking notes. Why it's helped me it's helped me a lot to stay on track. And there's actually a quote that I wanted to talk about actually having a team, because a lot of times people don't think they need a team. But if you don't have a team in life or in anything you're going to do, maybe a business, maybe anything, right? You need a team. And when I heard this quote, it makes a lot of sense, right? And it reads, even the most skilled pilot still needs a flight crew. So no matter how talented this pilot can be, this person that does this creative thing or has a talent in life, no matter how talented this person is, you're still going to need your flight crew, in the sense that you still need people to guide you, to motivate you, to make sure that you're staying in that lane where you belong, right? Because otherwise you're going to be limited to only your talent. And now there might be other people that are much more talented in other forms that you would have never even thought about, right? So no matter what, even though you're so talented and skilled and you think you can do everything on your own, that's only going to be limiting you in life, when having a team can only elevate you even higher. So just wanted to share that quote with you guys. If you guys had never heard it, I think I said it correctly. I was trying to look for the actual quote, but it's something along the lines of that. All right, so I briefly posted on social media. If anybody wanted me to touch base on anything, I posted it like last minute. So I'm not sure if anybody else messaged me while I'm actually recording the podcast. But the one that I was able to get right before I started recording the podcast was of Mr. JD of Planet on Films. And Mr. JD, he's also been a guest onto the podcast. And he asked, what have you learned about yourself? So something I've learned about myself through the podcast is that even with my flaws, having all my imperfections, people are still taking the time to not only come and have a genuine conversation with me, trust in me, as I mentioned in the past, right? That they're having their full on trust on putting them on social media, on the internet, where it can even go worldwide if one of these pieces of content goes viral, right? And having all these flaws and not being the perfect person that I wish I could strive to achieve to be, people are still watching my content, still receiving positive comments here and there. And I guess the message I'm trying to deliver is that you're never going to be perfect, right? However, people are still able to enjoy your content even if you're not perfect yet. So that's something that I've learned along the way, and about myself, that at times we don't think we're perfect enough. We're not the person to do such things. But no matter what, everybody's unique in life, and you're your own version of being a human being and sharing this human experience. That you're gonna have your group of people in this world that are still gonna support you, because maybe they like the way you are, the mistakes you do, the positive message you give. Maybe you're funny. No matter what, you're gonna find your people, or your people are gonna find you. So that's something that I learned about myself, to be okay with my flaws, to be okay with all my imperfections. Because at the end of the day, nobody's perfect. There's another quote that I love, is that the man that have never made a mistake never tried anything new. And just to elaborate on that, obviously, if this person has never made a mistake, he's been doing the same thing over and over. But as soon as he tries something different, you're going to see this perfect person, or so you think is perfect, make a lot of mistakes. So just keep that in mind. If you're not making mistakes, you're not trying to improve who you are. All right. So getting to a bad moment of the podcast, and that is the worst part of the podcast thus far. Unfortunately, there's been a few, very, very limited when it comes down to worst moments or bad moments into the podcast, because to be honest, I've had a lot more positive moments than negative, right? But unfortunately, 2025, the beginning of this year, we faced a couple downfalls, pretty big ones, if I'm going to be honest with you guys. And that's one, through YouTube, we received our first community guideline strike. And with that strike, we weren't able to post for a week. Why? Because apparently there was something that we mentioned that YouTube didn't like, or the guidelines didn't. We didn't fall under the guidelines that YouTube has for their platform. And it was very scary that we weren't in it. It was very discouraging that happened to us. Even to this point, we still have that strike. We're able to upload now, obviously, right? You guys are seeing this episode whenever you guys are watching it. But this strike is not going to clear up to like 3 months from now. And it just sucks because it got me. It was a reality check that anything can happen. And at the end of the day, we're on somebody else's platform. Eventually, I do want to think of other forms, other ways that we can produce whatever we want to talk about and own that platform. Maybe a website that we can upload anything we want to talk about, and you guys still get the chance to watch it, right? I know it's going to be a little bit more limited because it's going to have to be only the people that know that website will be only those people that watch it, right? But it was very, very, I don't know, it was very discouraging, very scary. It's a lesson learned not to say certain things or talk about certain things, or just be more creative when we're talking about specific subjects, right? Obviously, if we're able to avoid certain things, then we'll go ahead and do so. And that was actually episode 98 that happened. So we were, obviously, you guys are not going to see episode 98 anymore. Only a few people. I think we have like 2 podcast clips from episode 98 up. That those were still good to upload, but the whole episode as of right now is removed. But the positive thing with that, if you look at the whole journey, 2 years, almost 100 episode 98, we've only done that one mistake. That God is that, right? So it's not bad in the long run, right? But that happened at the beginning of 2025. Now, something else to add up onto that is that on TikTok, apparently in the past, there was a couple videos that got removed. Same thing because of community guidelines. Nothing crazy that we said. It was just maybe they don't want specific subjects that we talk about on a regular basis. We uploaded it to TikTok. They removed it. We appealed it. They told us, hey, you know what? After further review, your content was good, so we pretty much put it back on. So cool. But apparently, same episode 98, whatever we clipped up as TikTok posts, eventually got removed, and they went back and counted all the past posts that at one point got removed, which they were cleared. They still counted those against the channel or against the TikTok account, and they permanently removed our account. And it just sucks because I think the worst part of that is all the beautiful comments that we would receive, as mentioned on Chelo's post about ayahuasca ceremony and having her seeing the baby, and so many beautiful messages and comments that we were receiving through that post. And then seeing that 2.6 million TikTok with Berenice, as mentioned, completely gone. So many other ones. I think there was another one that Isabel said very beautiful words about being a mother. Over like 100, I think it was over 100 people had made posts on TikTok with that sound of Isabel saying that she just wants to heal and become the best version of herself, to become a mother. Beautiful words, and just seeing that all get wiped out just sucks. And it's a little heartbreaking, but if when that happened, that actually happened when they removed the whole TikTok account. That happened on Chelo's birthday, actually. So I was devastated. So apologize, Chelo, if I wasn't in the best mood that day, but I just felt like, man, all that hard work that I've put into building that account, which we were almost at 7,000 followers. It just seeing it just pretty much go to waste kind of broke my heart, and it just sucks, But who knows? They keep on saying that TikTok is gonna get completely removed anyways on the 19th. So maybe if it does, then cool. I'll just let it go and just let it be. If it doesn't, maybe I'll give it a shot and see if I can recuperate that account, which I'm not sure if I can, because according to that message pop-up that I got was saying that it was completely removed. So I need to look into that if TikTok actually comes back or stays on for the public to post on TikTok after the 19th. Right now, there's still a lot of speculations whether or not it's actually gonna still be live or not. So who knows? Only time will tell. But as mentioned, that all those moments happened close to the 100 episode. So with 100 episodes, we only had that downfall that pretty much got us in that rough moment in our journey of podcasting. But something that also I wanted to encourage people to, just keep in mind is 100 episodes, if in the grand scheme of things, in people's journeys of 100 episodes is not a lot if you think about it, right? And I wanted to bring up some fun facts that I actually pulled up, so you can kind of just keep an idea or keep in mind if you ever want to start anything in life, especially podcasting. The first 1 to 20 episodes, they like to call it a finding your voice, right? Because it's a learning, like you're barely starting, so you're trying to find your voice, trying to find the rhythm of things. So it says podcasts start small, with most downloads coming from friends, family, or initial promotions. Growth is slow as creators work on honing their style and learning the ropes, right? Maybe it's just getting used to your equipment. Maybe one of your cameras overheats. Maybe your camera turns off after 30 minutes, which is something that used to happen to me. You start finding better equipment. The story goes long, right? The story goes on, right? But episode 1 through 20, you just start finding your voice. Episode 20 to 50, you start gaining momentum. Around the stage, podcasters often begin building a small but loyal audience. I kind of have here and there. I know some people don't leave comments, but other people message me, or at times there's people that comment on multiple episodes. So I know that they're constantly watching, and I appreciate you guys that do that, because that's very motivating to myself, knowing that there's loyal people that really take time to listen to what we have to say. So consistency at that point, 20 to 50 episodes, you're barely gaining momentum at 20 to 50 episodes. Just keep that in mind, right? Consistency and guest collaborations start to pay off, especially if you promote clips on social media or invite guests with their own following. So similar to what we were doing, we were gaining a lot of new guests that they have their own platform that they're now they're following, or people that know them get to see the channel. So we start getting momentum around that 50th episode, right? Now, episode 50 to 100 is the breakthrough potential. And so it says many successful podcasts report steady growth here due to increased credibility and growing back catalog. Listeners who discover the podcast have more episodes to binge, increasing engagement. Collaborations with prominent guests or viral moments often happen during this stage, leading to bigger exposure. Similar to what was happening at that point, we had the 2.6 million. TikTok, another one of 1 million, over a bunch of over 10,000, 100,000, 200,000. So all of this seems to be very accurate. And this came from, I think I Googled, or I used ChatGPT to give me a breakdown. Keep in mind that it was almost 100 episode that we got paid through YouTube. So all of this so far seems to be pretty accurate, that it took us almost 100 episodes just to get to that point of getting paid and start getting more and more recognition, viral posts, so on and so forth. And then episode 100 and beyond, established popularity. So we are barely starting to that point that we got to the 100 episode, and maybe we'll start gaining more popularity at this point. But keep in mind, at 100 episodes, you're barely starting to, like this post said, gain popularity. And it took us, with us posting one episode, approximately one episode a week, took us about 2 years to get to that point. So 2 years, you're barely gaining some sort of popularity. So in the grand scheme of things, 100 episodes, you're just starting off. So yeah, even though those moments of, the YouTube strike, the removal of the TikTok account, it is devastating, but in the grand scheme of things, we're just getting started. So just wanted to put that into perspective, and that helped me to understand that it's okay. We're just starting here, and there's many other podcasts out there that I watch, that I consume on a regular basis, that they've been doing it for well over 10 years, and I just discovered, so I'm sure there's multiple podcasts that till this point I haven't even discovered, that they've been probably releasing content over the years. And something that I like to bring up and use as motivation is Theo Von, right? Theo Von is one of the top podcasters in the world, and I just discovered Theo Von last year, 2024, when Theo Von, as mentioned, he's one of the top podcasters, well over close to 9 years of doing podcasts. I think it was April 2016 when he first started. April 2016 when he started podcasting, almost 9 years. And I just discovered his podcast last year. So who am I to be discouraged if I don't have a loyal fan base or a loyal audience that watches or listens to my podcast when I just have 2 years of doing podcasts or this content creating journey, when somebody like Theo Vaughn has worked close to 9 years and somebody like myself just discovered him. So I still have 6 more years until other people finally discover who I am or the podcast. So yeah, I use that as a lot of guidance and motivation to, you know what, I know that we're releasing good content out there, but our audience still hasn't discovered us yet. And finally, I think just to not make this solo episode too long, is our biggest advice, or my biggest advice. So my biggest advice, I guess you can say, in relation to goals podcast, is just get started. In anything in life, you just want to get started and get used to being comfortable being uncomfortable. As mentioned, if you're not being uncomfortable in specific situations, then you're not growing as a human being. And if there's something in life that you want to do, just start. Make a lot of mistakes. Work with whatever you have accessible to you. And eventually you're going to start evolving. You're going to learn a lot more things. You're going to use better equipment. Maybe your vocabulary gets better. It can be endless. But one of the biggest regrets that a lot of people say often is, I wish I would have started earlier. Not necessarily that that's the way, that if maybe you're at an older age and you think you can no longer start because you're older in age, right? Because we all have different timelines. But at the end of the day, we all wish we could have started earlier. So why not just start now, right? Stop overthinking it and just pick up the camera, pick up whatever you want to do. If you want to start a business, just get started. Maybe open up your website for that specific business that you wanted to start. But just, you want to get the ball rolling and take one step closer towards that goal, dream, and new endeavor you want to start. Just get started. Be okay with making mistakes. We're all going to make them. We're still making them right now. And then something else, a lot of times that I've experienced myself, and I know other people stop themselves from doing a lot of things, is a lot of times we or people rely on somebody else, and relying on somebody else or other people stop you from accomplishing your goals and dreams. Why? Because, well, I want to do this, but this person he always flakes out on me, or he never has time, or this person is so it's not trustworthy, or I can't rely on this person. But if you know these people don't have the time and day or the drive that you have, then just don't rely on them, and you work with what you have to make things work. And eventually the right people will come into your life that not only will guide you, but help you along the way. And the people that are meant to be in your circle, in your journey, will stay. And if not, they won't. But a lot of times, maybe certain people come into your journey for a specific chapter, and they're not meant to be at the end of your story. But you won't know any of that if you don't start and you stop relying on people that are not fully there for you. So that's probably my biggest advice, to just get started. Don't wait on people. If not, you're always going to be waiting. Don't wait for the right moment. The moment's never going to be right. just get started. The sooner the better, but obviously we all have different timelines. I was watching this YouTuber. I think I don't want to ruin his YouTube channel, but this older gentleman. I was watching his podcast that just recently became super popular on YouTube, and now reached over a million subscribers. But like I said, he was an older gentleman, and apparently somebody created a TikTok of a lot of highlights of his YouTube channel, saying that this YouTube channel was a great channel. They put a bunch of, like, I guess, footage of his YouTube channel, and from one night to another, the YouTube channel just skyrocketed up. I think if I remember correctly, maybe he had like over 1,000 subscribers to his YouTube channel, and now he's well over the 1 million subscribers. From one night to another, his life changed. But on that video that I watched, he wanted to already quit his YouTube channel because he was just doing it for pure love. But obviously, when you're uploading and you're not seeing the traction that you wish you had, a lot of people quit. And he was already getting to that point of maybe not continuing it because of financial reasons. But you just never know when the time is going to happen for you, right? And that awe moment, that life-changing event for you. And that was for him. I think he's, like I said, he's an older gentleman, and it happened unexpectedly for him, because somebody through TikTok decided to make this post, change his whole life. Amazing. So you just never know what life has in store for you, but you won't know if you won't try. And I think with that being said, I think we're gonna end this podcast right now. I just wanted to share some of those moments. Sorry if this was not my best podcast. I'm just trying to become better with every episode I do, especially with the solo podcast. It's very hard to stay on track and to talk well over for an hour, and having so much conversation with nobody else being on the other side listening to you while you're actually recording. So like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, podcasting has been a school to me till this day, and I'm just here for the journey. I'm here to learn. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this journey as you watch, as you listen. And if you made it to this far, to the very end of this video, drop a party emoji and a shot glass. Let me know you're celebrating with me. Even if it's one person that made it to this point of the podcast, cheers. Thank you. It means the world to me, whoever made it to this part of the podcast, the ending. And hopefully, I think one of the biggest goals, and I've mentioned it in the past, has been that hopefully I'm impacting somebody in a positive way through one of our episodes, one of our TikToks, one of our reels, any piece of content that we post. Hopefully it's impacting and has impacted somebody in a positive way throughout these 2 years that we have so far. Once again, my name is Angel Houseman. Like I always like to say, it's a greater risk, not taking a risk. Till next time, and thank you.
Hoy no más.